the night I realized I betrayed him. This Saturday, I was out in town celebrating my boyfriend's 23rd birthday with him and his friends. We'd been together for a year and a half, and everything was going well until we ran into my ex-boyfriend, who was my first love. We dated for a few years, but he never accepted how our relationship ended. He was visibly drunk and started speaking inappropriately. My boyfriend and his friends went inside the pub while I stayed outside for a couple of minutes talking to my ex before heading back in. My boyfriend didn't seem too bothered, but mentioned he was glad my ex was gone. After about an hour, we moved to another pub, but my ex and his friend were there too. While we were hanging out in the smoking area, my ex kept staring at me, making my boyfriend visibly uncomfortable. Eventually, my ex walked over, started speaking inappropriately again, and even placed his hand on my back. My boyfriend asked him to move along, but my ex reacted poorly, shoving and punching my boyfriend. That's when my boyfriend snapped. He hit my ex hard, knocking him to the ground, and followed up with a couple more punches and a kick to his ribs. His reaction shocked me because I'd never seen him like that before. After his friends pulled him away, I made a huge mistake. I ran to my ex instead of checking on my boyfriend. I helped my ex stop the bleeding, wiped the blood from his nose, and gave him water. I stayed with him for about 20 to 30 minutes until he got up and left, looking embarrassed. When I finally looked around for my boyfriend, he was gone. My friend told me he left with his friends shortly after I went to my ex, looking heartbroken. I was supposed to stay at his place that night, but when I got there, it was empty. It's been 3 days, and I haven't been able to reach him. One of his friends said some harsh things to me, which I probably deserve. I feel like I ruined everything on his birthday and betrayed him. I can't stop crying, and I don't know how to fix our relationship. I see now that I made a terrible mistake. My boyfriend was defending me, but I prioritized comforting the person who instigated everything. I've read some brutally honest comments, and I know I was in the wrong. Update. To clarify, I have no romantic feelings for my ex. We were childhood friends because our parents were close, but that's all. I was drunk and overwhelmed in the heat of the moment, and I realize now how much I hurt my boyfriend. The aftermath. Trying to make amends. I tried to explain that helping my ex felt more like helping a longtime friend rather than my ex, but I know that doesn't excuse what I did. Earlier today, I went to my boyfriend's house to talk. When he opened the door, he looked completely defeated. Seeing him like that almost made me burst into tears. He let me in, and we sat on the sofa in silence. A movie he had been watching was playing in the background, but neither of us paid any attention to it. I didn't know where to start. After a while, he broke the silence and asked, "Why did you do that to me?" Through tears, I explained how, in the moment, I thought I was just helping a childhood friend and didn't see it as helping an ex. I told him how scared and overwhelmed I was and how I never meant to hurt him. I apologized over and over, feeling more terrible with each passing second. He didn't say a word initially, just poured himself another drink. When I finally asked him to say something, he opened up. He told me how betrayed and humiliated he felt, especially in front of his friends, when he was only trying to protect me. He asked how I could do this to him, and though he tried to look at the TV to hide his emotions, I saw him crying. I've never seen him cry before, and it shattered me to see how deeply I'd hurt him. Words can't describe how awful I felt in that moment. I wanted to disappear. We talked for a while longer as he continued drinking. I begged him to slow down, but he ignored me. He admitted that he still loved me, but couldn't believe I'd hurt him like that. He said he wasn't sure he could ever forgive me. I apologized again and begged for another chance, promising I'd do anything to make things right. But he told me he didn't want to talk about it anymore, at least not right now. We sat together, watching the movie in silence, both crying quietly. A little later, he fell asleep beside me, resting his head on my chest. Part of me hoped this was a sign he might forgive me, but deep down, I suspected it was more of a subconscious reaction than a conscious choice. I love him so much, and I can't believe I broke his heart like this. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm terrified it's over. The final update. The next morning, we had breakfast together. Afterward, he told me to leave and not to contact him again.